On the night of August 24th, 21, Air Transat Airlines Flight 236 was going from Toronto to Lisbon. When this plane, which was at a height of 49 feet, reached the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, suddenly both its engines stopped because the fuel of the plane had run out and the plane started falling down. There was water all around, and the nearest airport was 120 kilometers away where it was impossible to reach. That is, there is going to be only one outcome of this accident, and that is death. On the evening of August 23rd, 21, Canadian airline Air Transat Flight 236 was preparing to go from Toronto Airport to Lisbon, city of Portugal. Now, since this was going to be a 7-hour non-stop flight, after regular service and maintenance check, 48 metric tons of fuel was put in it. This was an Airbus A330 plane, which was considered to be the most advanced and safest aircraft of that time. The 16-year-old Captain Robert Pesh had an experience of 1,680 flight hours, while the first officer had already flown 100 hours, and both of them had flown the Airbus A330 many times before. In a short while, 293 passengers and 13 crew members board the flight, and at around 9 in the night, the plane takes off successfully from the airport, and the pilot slowly takes the plane towards the Atlantic Ocean to take it to Lisbon. In a few minutes, the plane reaches its cruising altitude of 39,000 feet. Now, the pilots do not have to work on such long flights, because most of the work is done by the autopilot system. The pilots monitor the situation and keep updating the control tower from time to time with their location. 4 hours had passed on this flight. Till now, everything was going normal and the passengers on board the plane were fast asleep. In a few minutes, the plane had reached the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when Captain Robert Pesh turned towards the control panel of engine number 2 of the plane where some abnormal readings were coming. That is, the alarm bell had rung, and with this, the test of the pilots of the flight began. At around 1 o'clock in the night, the pilot saw that the oil pressure in the right side engine was low. Also, the oil quantity was indicating low, and the oil temperature was also low. Both the pilots were seeing this type of error for the first time in their career. Because from scooter to airplane, whenever any engine is operational for a long time, its temperature gradually drops, but here the temperature was dropping rapidly, which was not normal in any way. Therefore, both the pilots immediately look at the flight manual, but they do not find anything in it. Then, without delaying, the pilots directly call the Maintenance Control Center of Air Transat, located in Canada, and tell about this problem, but in response they are told that you keep monitoring the error, and as soon as we get to know something about it, we will contact you. Now, even though faulty readings are being seen in the cockpit, there was no problem, so the pilots relaxed, thinking that maybe some faulty sensor is giving wrong reading of oil, but the accident that was going to happen to them in the future is still written in black letters in the history of air accidents. Well, about half an hour passed. Then on the cockpit screen, the captain's message appeared. Another advisory message was displayed, but this message was not related to oil but to fuel. Actually, commercial airlines distribute fuel equally in their wings. But this screen showed a warning that there is less fuel in the right wing as compared to the left wing, but the pilots did not face this problem much, because sometimes such warnings come even when there is a few liters less fuel. Then the cross-field wall is opened and the fuel is distributed equally in both the wings. So this time also the pilot did something similar, due to which the quantity of fuel in both the wings became equal. But after 10 minutes the captain sees a low fuel warning in the display. Then on checking he comes to know that the fuel in the right wing has again become less, and now even both the wings combined do not have enough fuel to reach Lisbon. At this time 7 tons of fuel was left in the plane, which was 6% of the total capacity of the plane, and this too was getting reduced rapidly. In such a situation the pilot had no other option but to divert the plane. Then he decided to land at the airport located in his nearest island, and immediately contacted the traffic control and told them the whole thing, but both the pilots were wondering why the fuel was running low and whether they would be able to reach the airport or not. Then the captain immediately asked the flight attendant to check the right wing to see if there was any fuel leakage from there. But in the dense darkness of the night, the flight attendant could not see anything. Now the condition was such that 1 tin of fuel was getting leaked every 5 minutes. Now they had only 25 minutes of fuel left, due to which it was not possible to reach the island. Then the maintenance team told the captain to take the plane to a height of 20 feet so that the fuel leakage could be confirmed. But the captain refused to do so because he believed that even if the fuel leakage was confirmed, we would not be able to reach the height of 49 feet again, and at least by gliding from 49 feet, we could go a few more kilometers. Then suddenly the right engine of the plane caught fire, which confirmed that there was a leak. This explosion caused panic among the passengers sitting inside, due to which the plane started shaking. Then the captain requested the passengers to sit quietly. Now there were 4 tons of fuel and 1 engine left in the plane, due to which it was not possible for such a plane to cruise. In such a situation, the attitude of the plane started decreasing slowly. Now there were 600 kilograms of fuel left in the plane, and that too was now 240 kilometers away from its destination. Then what the captain feared happened. The left engine of the plane also stopped working due to running on full thrust, and now the flight started gliding over the Atlantic Ocean without any engine. Along with this, the power system of the plane also stopped, due to which the entire cabin was in darkness. However, all the important equipment of the cockpit were also running on emergency support. Now the airport was at a distance of 120 kilometers, and the plane had come down to 30 feet. Now if the plane could not reach the airport by gliding, then it had to land in the water itself, so the crew members immediately started preparing the passengers. But landing in water is dangerous because the passengers have to face the impact, and even if they survive the impact, they can drown in the water. Now it is difficult to glide a heavy commercial plane. Everything depended on the middle control of the plane, which the pilots were controlling manually with a lever, where its altitude was decreasing by 200 feet per minute. That is, the next 15 minutes were going to write the story of life or death of 306 people on board the flight. After a few minutes, the distance between the plane and the airport had reached 15 kilometers. At such a distance, it is recommended to keep the attitude of the flight at 3 feet, whereas the attitude of this plane was 13 feet, but if the captain had tilted the flight forward and reduced the altitude rapidly, there was a 90% chance of a crash landing. In such a situation, the pilot made a 360-degree turn right there, due to which the distance between the plane and the airport remained the same, but the altitude had reduced from 8 feet to 5 feet, which was still 2 feet from the recommended level, but now it was not possible to make 360 degrees. Therefore, the pilot turned the plane towards the runway of the airport and then made some S-turns. By moving back and forth in a zigzag pattern, the plane got some extra time to reduce the attitude. Now normally, flips and engine thrust are used to keep the nose of the plane up during landing. But the pilots could not open the flips without engine thrust, because by doing so the air drag from the flips would tilt the plane even further and there would be a crash landing. Therefore, the pilot decided to land by keeping the flaps closed, which resulted in a collision between the plane and the runway, and in 12 minutes 8 tires burst, due to which the plane was skidding and sliding to one side. But the captain wisely applied the brakes slowly, and finally the plane stopped, but then a fire broke out in the landing gear of the plane. However, the emergency crew present near the runway extinguished that fire immediately. In this way, the brave pilots of Air Transat Flight 236 saved the lives of 306 passengers. Until date, this is the only plane in history that has made a record of reaching its destination by lighting up for so long without any engine. But now the question was, where did it happen? When an investigation was done regarding this, it was found that during maintenance before takeoff in Toronto, the engineers had changed a part of the engine of the plane which did not fit perfectly. Due to this, in the operational condition of the engine, vibrations started occurring in that part, which burst the nearby fuel line. At the same time, it was also said to be the fault of the pilots that they did not pay attention to the fuel leakage, and kept the crossfit valve open for a long time, due to which the fuel of engine 1 also started leaking into engine 2 and the fuel got accumulated. So friends, which air accident do you want to know about in the next case study? Do tell us in the comments. If you liked our efforts in the video, then like and share the video, and for such detailed case studies, subscribe to Air Stories channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss the notification of the upcoming videos. See you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.